Well, what is up everybody? Welcome back to another episode of I Do a Random Thing with Computers, and in today's episode, I will be taking a crack at trying to upgrade these things, which are two laptops that my dad found in his office's e-waste pile. So, yeah, so both these machines are from the same era, and they wwere produced around 2011, and they were kind of basic, and they aren't really that powerful these days. Both of them have some kind of issue related to them. This one, it has an issue with its display where sometimes the backlight goes out. This is a Sony Vaio of some sort, and it's actually a really nice machine. I've already kind of done some stuff with these machines already. The backlight on this goes out intermittently, and this one is reporting that it has an intermittent, it's reporting that its hard drive's about to fail, so we definitely gotta address that. And since both of them are still running on mechanical hard drives, it's definitely a good idea to have that fixed up, and especially while we still have the opportunity, we do. Also, we actually happen to have, a few years ago, we actually happened to have this exact model of laptop, so we were able to find the power supply for that one. And so, yeah. And we also managed, and so, we really don't have much on this, and so, yeah. And both of these things still need some kind of battery in them. They both have batteries, and the batteries are still relatively healthy, but they aren't getting the battery life they used to have. They've got about an hour of battery life, where probably new out of box they would have had like 4 hours on them. And yeah, the only other thing I really did with both these machines is I installed Kubuntu on them, because usually machines of this old and this vintage usually do nice with a Linux install on them. In fact, this laptop is the one that I use on a daily basis. In fact, you might have seen this forever ago. And this is actually the computer I started this YouTube channel on. And I'm still able to use it because, I installed Linux. And this is actually kind of the guinea pig for most of the upgrades we're going to be doing today. As for what we're going to do with them afterwards, my parents wanted to use them as like machines to hand out to guests and let them borrow. And yeah. And so I'm like, and you know what? For that, So in order to accomplish that, I made a huge order to Amazon, and let's go and get to that point. Alright, so here's the not too comically large box this time. I ordered this off of Amazon because, get it all in one place. And besides, they were running a deal on some of this stuff, so you know what? Where the deals are, I guess. So up here is the power supply for the Sony Vaio, because that's the only computer we don't have an actual power supply for. As you can see, it's not too much of a chunk. It's a bit chunky. It's for traveling, I wouldn't recommend these supplies because I've had them for my Mac, for my little MacBook. These things just fail all the time, and but for being put into use all the time, like at somewhere where it's like not where it's it's not going to, where it's not going to travel too much, these are acceptable. So yeah, and here we have batteries for the both of them. I've dealt with this brand before. In fact, for my main laptop, I've used their batteries. Yeah, I know there are way better brands to work with, and these are kind of the best for what you can get these days. I wouldn't really, if I could find better, I would probably recommend those instead of this. Hell, if there were factory originals that they're still making these days, which I highly doubt, especially judging the attitudes some of these companies have these days. It's definitely things are different. And two SSDs. These are SATA MX500s from Crucial. They're both terabyte sized, and that's what I'm doing to kind of address the storage issue on one, or the issue with the hard drive on the one computer. And yeah, I was actually able to find these ones on sale for like $62, and at the time of filming it's gotten even better because you can even get them for like I think it was like 52 when I checked, after I'd ordered both of them. In fact, I kind of had a bit of buyer's remorse because I was like, they just reduced the price again. And yeah, and finally is a little cloning cable, which we do have a cloning cable, but it's a bit smaller, and yeah, have to borrow it and all that. And you know what? Yeah, but it adapts to SATA. It has USB 3. It's simple, and yeah. And lastly, what's not in the box is this flash drive, which has CloneZilla on it. Both of these computers are going to be using CloneZilla, because they're both Linux boxes at this point. So so yeah, hopefully it can boot to both of that. Sure do hope it can. And yeah, I'll probably move to a bit of a time lapse of the cloning process, and might even talk about some of the aspects of it. So yeah, let's move the box out of the way and get to work on things. Alright, so let's just start out with a battery upgrade. We're going to start out with the Bio. As you can see, Parrot's already kind of named these things, so you like to do that. Usually, I can find ones that are usually pretty compatible. This looks to be it. As you can see, their batteries, you can kind of see the area where the cells are. They're all down here, and these, it's kind of like that, and it looks like it's pretty much a one-to-one replica. Yeah, it looks about the size. So these actually are funny with how they do it. I think, yeah, the lock is off, and if I release, it's on a bit of a hinge, and that is a really cool replacement strategy, I'd say. We'll definitely keep the batteries around because they aren't completely dead, but they're getting that way. They are getting to about, they are only able to retain about an hour of battery life on them, and that's not really that great. So yeah, so let us make sure there's no kind of weird things and stuffs on it, and yeah, so now we can just hinge it in a bit, and boom. And then, because I don't think we're going to be making too many changes to it, we can make a lock, and there we go. Simple as that. On to the next computer, I guess. Now, the funny thing about these computers is they're actually running on almost similar components. They're both running on some kind of mid-2011, I'm going to say APU type CPU. It's definitely AMD. It's an APU. It's one of their dual core Athlon, not very advanced, good enough for Windows 7, probably good enough for a bit of Linux, but anything past that, it's OP when it comes to trying to run LibreOffice, and that's about it. Now this battery's kind of smaller, but it looks like it fits within the same size. Let's see if it goes in right, because I'm a bit concerned about that, but but they look to be roughly the same size. It's one of the big concerns I always have. Let me just put this out here, and yeah, they're identical, and boom, now we've got new batteries. So yeah, so now both batteries have been replaced. Let's get on with the SSD upgrades. Alright, so like I said, these are the SSDs we're going with, the Crucial MX500s. Yeah, because that's the error that we were having, the system hard disk error. It shows enter. There we go. So, unfortunately it's not showing up under it's not showing up under the capture cards, so I can't really get video out to it. Or is it? I don't know. Something weird with Linux, but, you know, capture card is a... Well, Clonezilla is considered a Linux distro. Or actually, yeah, it is based on Linux. It does have a lot of Linuxy properties attached to it. And, yeah. And the only funny thing about it is that we're probably going to have to go back into it, or at least go to some kind of partition editor, or at least go to the Kubuntu install disk, because as it turns out, the partition in our thing, Clonezilla does a bit-for-bit replica of the partition, but it does not expand the biggest partition after it finishes. So, you know, there's all that. So that kind of needs... So we will have to go into Kubuntu's install disk after that, and yeah, and basically just use it to run a partition editor, basically, and just install it. And, you know, well, not install it, but you get the point. Need to raise the partition somehow. While this is booting, I'm going to change out the batteries. Alright, so here we are on Clonezilla. It looks a bit bluish on camera, or it looks a bit purplish on camera, but it's actually a blue. It doesn't really matter, it's, you know, typical Linux stuff. So, we're in Clonezilla. Just keep the normal keyboard layout, you know, basic setup. It's running on Debian, obviously. So, there we go. We'll start Clonezilla. We do need to do some things. We need to do a device to device, and just needs to start finding everything, and it does. This is kind of one of those parts that takes a while, so I'm going to go and put this onto things. Okay, dev/sdb, it found it, but it hasn't been initialized, so it's probably like unrecognized disk label. This is a pretty common thing, I guess. I'm probably going to go with beginner, because even though I do know a lot about it, and I do know how to use Linux, and I've used Linux for years, I'm just gonna take the easy route. You know, it's, you know, why give yourself the extra hell when all you want to do is just clone disk to disk? So, you know, there you go, local disk to local disk. So here we go. So let's see. Our source is our 320 gig. You know, it's our dying 320 gig, apparently. And, you know, and then the second disk is our terabyte SSD. So yeah, there we go. And, I think we'll probably do that, because it is probably, you know, we'll have it choose, but we will tell it to check the file system, because if Smart was giving errors, it might not be a huge issue, because, you know, the thing was actually running Linux pretty stably, was in a very stable manner. Yeah. So let's see. Existing. Yep. So a terabyte, which had no data on it, and I just got it like 15 minutes ago. Will lose its data for stuff, and there we go. So now it's just gonna start doing it, and I'm gonna try and put it on time lapse, maybe for like 30 seconds or thereabouts. You know, probably jump to the end of it. Alright, so we are here in the old partition for once more. So now we have our new drive, and here it is actually in order, but one big problem that Clonezilla has is that it doesn't copy over or expand the partition at all. So we do need to resize it to take up all of it. How much of it? All of it. Actually, they give you a little sliver of area to do it. Alright, there we go. So now it's taking up the entire drive, and let's hit apply. And we will say yes to applying all of that, and hopefully it'll grow the partition and GPT will pick up on that. Alright, I'll leave this on a bit of a time lapse, I guess, but usually it does it pretty quickly. Alright, and we'll also start on the vial, which I'm probably not going to put you through the montage on, and I'll probably just jump cut to when it's ready and all that. But, you know, but you get to see me plug it in and all that. You know, this thing has more storage behind it, but they've both got the same amount of stuff on them, so roughly 24 gigs. So they should clone about the same rate as the HP model. And I have to spam H2 in order to get to the BIOS, because I need to go into getting the boot priority to external device. I think it's already that way. Just gotta make sure. Let's also see if it boots from. See how it's gonna boot from my Clonezilla disk. Also, it would be really nice if I actually plugged it into the power supply. It needs to be charged. Like, charged. And set it here. Alright, so, while I let that boot up, yeah, I'm gonna do other things. Alright, so while the other laptop is finishing up its copying, in fact it is mostly finished, I am going to take this apart, and this has never been opened, and yeah, we're going to install the new freshly cloned SSD into that, and yeah, the other laptop just finished. Alright, so now we're inside of this thing and in our little thing. I'm gonna try and grab it from the little casing bit. So yeah, there's quite a bit to deal with, because I am trying to bring over the adapter thingo. We're almost out. There we go. Holy hell, that is stuck in there. But there we go. Any screws? Nope, not really. Just this rubbery bit. Kind of using custom connectors. Ooh. Oh, okay. So there's a bit of metal around here to kind of do it. That's good to know, I guess, because we're not going to loosely put it in there. We're going to do it kind of the professional way, and we're going to basically put the screws and the sled in the way they originally were, because yeah, you know, there's this rubbery thing that actually has a bit of metal in it, so it can hold the SSD in, or the hard drive, well, what will be the SSD in it. So yeah, I'm just keeping the screws off to one side while I work on that one. And yeah, there we go. So yeah, this is a 320 gig WD Scorpio Blue, which is kind of failing, so don't know how long we're going to keep it, but oh well. Anyways, so here's our new SSD, I hope I'm putting it in right. But yeah, I see why they included a bracket in box, because as it is, it's where it was kind of hard to get it out of that case earlier. This is nowhere near that route. So let me just put this little plastic bracket that I could have 3D printed in 30 milliseconds in. There we go. So yeah, this is kind of, I think, what they were intending that bracket for. It's kind of pointless if you're trying to install it on a desktop, but I could totally see it on kind of a laptop and something like this, and it's actually kind of being a bit helpful here in getting the screws in, because now things are actually aligning way easier with this. Here we go. so we can keep all the original parts and we can keep it like none of these upgrades ever really happened, except for the fact that they did happen, and you know, all that. Thus concludes these activities for this machine, I guess. Now just put it all back together, and oh, that is a very hard. It does take a bit of a push to get it in there, but you know, that's kind of expected. Dealing with pieces of rubber to avoid skidding and yeah. Holy hell, that is HP likes their tight fits, clearly. Oh boy, I have to press fit it in. Ah. Oh, don't take it out, don't. Come on. Almost there. Now the Vio's transplant job will probably be way easier, because I've kind of been in and out of the Vio quite a bit, so yeah. So yeah, there we go. That is, that's our SSD in there. I'm going to reinstall the bottom bit, which is kind of this, and a screwdriver. Where the hell my normal one went? Nope, it doesn't matter. We're going to click it in. I'll save you the details, and let's get on with that. Alright, so now we have the Vio, which actually kind of finished like as soon as I was finishing up the finished cloning and doing all of its things. Once I was finishing up the installation on the HP, so that's good. So at the bottom there is the two things, and yeah, there are two screws down here, and you don't really need to worry about prying things open. Unfortunately, in this case, I think I might, but not too much. Not fully out, especially on this screw as well. Both screws weren't fully out, that's fun. But once you do, unfortunately this one has a tendency of falling back into its hole, into its little hidey hole there. Once you do, you should be able to get it to come out in some way, shape, and form. There we go. It's kind of coming out. I've been in this thing a couple times, so there we go. And yeah, it already has removed two of the screws for the little sled, and the sled on this thing is actually way easier to work with, since it's literally just a slab of metal with the small screws for stuff. So yeah, we only have to remove one because that corner does not have a screw, to make it easier to get things out. In fact, we'll get our SSD out, and we will also get our plastic bracket on it. It's not really necessary in this case because it's kind of screwed down with the four little ones, but if manufacturer throws it in, you know, we're going to be repacking the older drives. We're going to reuse this packaging for the old drives, so, and, you know, those are full height, and this is not very much. Okay, there's that, and then that, and then congratulations, we now have the riser on it. You know, it's kind of pointless on this machine, but yeah. But once you do, yeah, it's out, and boom, there's the drive. Have to remove these four screws, obviously, and that is as simple as possible. You should have also been able to pull it out with this pull tab, but I broke it like the literal moment I tested it, so it might not be the greatest idea. I mean, these are 11-year-old machines, so at the time of filming, so please make sure to kind of, so if you do this, you know, deal with things like that. But you know, videos like this, you know, it's like, what the hell happened to computers? Because, you know, you don't get computers where you actually have upgrade hatches for you know, basic things like SSD and hard drive and then RAM and all that. The RAM hatch is this one. You just take out that screw and do a bit of prying, and it will tell you, and it will give you your 4 gigs of RAM. Yeah, this thing has a bit of a bend on it and there's some insulator on there, so it doesn't get too damaged or warped or destroyed. And yeah, and as long as I repackage, yeah, I'm probably not going to put much use behind it. Probably just store the drives. They're still acceptable quality drives. They're not the fastest. There are way better choices these days, but in a pinch, you know, if we need something, if this fails or something like that, sure do hope not, but in the unlikely event that that does happen, we know where to go to. Now let's see, we want to go for pins on that. So, you know, pins to that tab. Real simple. There are little rails on the side which allow you to just slide it in. You know, make sure your screw holes aligned, which should be easy as long as you just see the screw holes, and then you just press and at all times keep pressing the thing against it. You know, it's a bit weird that it's kind of a first time that I've done one of these SSD upgrades where the SSD literally had to have a plastic bracket included because it wasn't tall enough. I guess they were trying to go for like a half height form factor for stuff like my gaming PC, where, you know, it's one of those many mid-tower cases where it has actual SSD drive bays and not just the bog standard SATA, however the hell you pronounce it, drive bays. You know, and there you go. But yeah. So, yeah. But yeah, I can't really judge it because, you know, I paid like $60 for these drives. Hell, you could probably even pay way less because I think they're trying to get rid of these things. You know, it's like the price just keeps dropping on these things like crazy. And if I just... And, ooh, this one's giving me a bit of resistance. Don't tell me I cross-threaded it. I sure do hope not. Oh well. Ah, there we go. And boom. There we go. New drive. Already there. And as long as I can get it right over the little ledge. Boom. And there we go. And the only thing left is the one little nano screw at this bottom left corner. And yeah, this is one of the easier laptops I've done. You know, like the HP one, that was actually quite a bit more involved because it actually had tabs on it. This one does, but at least it slides in, and those are just there to kind of lock it as you slide it in. I'm also going to temporarily remove the screws for it there, and then we just, you know, so it slides in way easier. And oh, there we go. And there we go. That's the cover right back in. The cover does take care of those 2 other screws, as you might have noticed. So by putting in the cover, you've effectively put in the other 2 screws for it. And yeah. And with that, we can put in our battery. You can replace the battery and rehinge that and lock it in. And there we go. Just gonna put these things on charge, and let's get to the end of this video, I guess. Alright, so that concludes it. In fact, let's do a bit of a final boot test. Both of them are running on AC power. They boot at the same time. See if the SSDs boot faster, because they should. In fact, I think they have to. Okay, well that got to Ubuntu first. Yeah, no more boot error. Unfortunately, I might have to give that one a 30-second, because keyboard doesn't work until it actually boots into Linux. But yeah, it did boot into an OS, so real quickly. You know, you do have to stay on grub, unfortunately, for that one. That one I might have to give a bit of a pass on, but provided it didn't come out of an error recovery state. Yeah, there we go. Both these machines are on an OEM mode, so they are running relatively, they were running on like one user account. You know, they were running on a bit of a auto login kind of thing. In fact, probably when I finish this video, after I finish this one up, I'm gonna pass it. I'm gonna click the icons to not make it do the thing. Yeah. Oh, and that's interesting. That one went into a slight verbose boot. It's a bit weird. Okay. Yeah. Also, a bit of a problem with this power supply. The keyboard, the mouse goes weird with the mouse pad. The touchpad goes a bit weird with the power supply plugged in. So yeah, definitely gonna leave these machines to charge overnight, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, that one's mostly charged. It's funny, but yes. So let's see. Yeah, both of them are running on the new batteries. So yeah, it's roughly these machines are both pretty good. You know, they actually have, now that they have the best upgrades you can do, you know, these things should be like 10 times faster when trying to load into stuff. In fact, now that we're there, try and load into everyone's favorite spyware, Google Chrome. And, yep. Ah. Oh well. But yeah, both kind of load into it relatively quickly. I haven't used a version of Chrome on this one because I typically use Vivaldi instead. But yeah, except for the times I don't. But yeah, there we go. So that's not bad. Both these machines are relatively fast, and you know Linux and all of the upgrades I did to it definitely did these machines a world of good. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with these things. You know, from trash to treasure, I guess. You know, very simple repairs, very simple fixes and all that. And yeah, so yeah, if you like what you saw, please leave a like and subscribe. You know, if there's any opinions or any screaming section things, or I did the wrong thing, or you know, mad because I installed spyware and you know, Chrome and all that, well, there's a comment section for that. Anyways, if you like what you saw, leave a like and subscribe, and bye.